What if the ultimate productivity hack wasn't a new app, but entirely new arms? We live in a world obsessed with doing more, better, faster. We optimize our calendars, automate our emails, track our every move. We chase that elusive state of hyper efficiency, pushing ourselves to the breaking point, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the fear of falling behind. But what if there was a shortcut? Not a trick, but a fundamental upgrade. Imagine a world where the limitations of your own body, the fatigue, the distractions, the sheer biological inefficiency were simply bypassed. Meet Elias. Elias wasn't born a titan of industry. He was an average guy with a crippling fear of falling behind. He had a passion, sure, a burning desire to create intricate, beautiful kinetic sculptures, the kind that hummed with life and intricate gears. But his hands, his mortal, shaky hands, couldn't keep up with the visions in his head. They cramp after hours hunched over a workbench. His focus would blur, and intricate details would become frustrating obstacles. He tried everything: ergonomic tools, time breaks, focus music, even questionable productivity supplements that left him jittery and anxious. Nothing closed the gap between his ambition and his ability. He felt like a vintage machine trying to compete in a digital age. Then he saw an ad, not for a productivity app, but for something called neural augmentations. It wasn't full-blown cyborg transformation, not initially. It was subtle. An implant that streamlined thought to action in the hands, reducing micro-hesitations. Another for the eyes, offering enhanced focus, a wider field of peripheral awareness without conscious effort. Skeptical but desperate, Elias took the plunge. The initial augmentations were unsettling. A phantom buzzing in his fingertips, moments of jarring clarity where the world seemed to sharpen into hyper-definition. But then he started working. The difference was immediate, almost terrifying. His hands moved with a precision he'd only dreamed of. Hours felt like minutes. The cramps vanished, replaced by a tireless, almost instinctual rhythm. He finished his first augmented sculpture in a fraction of the time he expected. It was flawless, the gears interlocking with impossible grace. He felt a surge of exhilaration, a sense of being finally unleashed. He was hooked. The initial augmentations were just the beginning. He upgraded his hands, replacing flesh and bone with sleek, matte black synth steel capable of finer manipulation than any human hand. He augmented his arms, increasing strength and endurance. He even considered enhancing his brain, but the thought felt too invasive, too much like losing himself. Still, the changes he made were profound. His productivity skyrocketed. He was churning out sculptures at an astonishing rate, each one more intricate and complex than the last. He became known, first locally then internationally, for his almost inhuman skill. Orders poured in. Money flowed. He was living the life he'd always wanted, free from the frustrating limitations of his own biology. He felt powerful, efficient, a perfectly calibrated machine. He was, in every measurable way, more productive. But something felt off. He felt like he was losing touch with the joy of it. The struggle, the small victories over stubborn materials, the feeling of his own sweat and effort, those were gone, replaced by a smooth, effortless execution. He was efficient, yes, but was he still creating? The process felt sterile, automated. The sculptures were perfect, almost too perfect. They lacked the faint imperfections, the tiny human touches that had made his earlier work feel alive. His friends noticed a change, too. Conversations felt strained. He was always scheduled, optimized with little time for spontaneous connection. He was a high-performance engine, but he was running on fuel that felt increasingly alien. He looked at his hands, the gleaming metal, and wondered who was actually making these things. Was it him, Elias? Or was it the machine? The turning point came during a rare moment of unproductivity. He was sitting in a park, watching kids chase pigeons, when he saw a street artist sketching in a worn-out notebook. Her lines were messy, tentative, sometimes erased and redrawn. She was struggling, frowning in concentration, her brow furrowed. And then she smiled, a genuine, triumphant smile as she finally nailed a tricky curve. In that moment, Elias felt a pang of something he hadn't felt in a long time: envy. not for her skill, which was raw and unrefined compared to his augmented precision, but for the experience, for the messy, imperfect, deeply human act of creation. He realized that productivity, at its core, wasn't just about output. It was about the process, the struggle, the learning, the connection to the work itself. His augmentations had made him a machine for production, but they had also removed him from the very act that gave his life meaning. The efficiency had come at the cost of his humanity, his connection to the messy, beautiful imperfection of being alive and creating. He had optimized away the very things that made his work and his life worth living. So Elias made a radical choice, a choice that baffled his clients and worried his friends. He reversed the augmentations. It was painful, a dismantling of a part of himself he had come to rely on. But as the foreign material was removed, as the feeling returned to his natural hands, he felt a wave of relief, a homecoming. His first attempts at sculpting with his own imperfect hands were frustrating. His fingers cramped, his focus wavered. He wasn't as fast, not as precise. But as he worked, painstakingly, hour after hour, he felt something else return joy. The simple, profound joy of creating with his own two hands, flaws and all. His sculptures were no longer perfectly sterile. They had character, personality, the faint imprint of a human touch. He was less productive by the cold, hard metrics of output, but he was more fully alive, more deeply connected to his work, more fully himself. What if the ultimate productivity isn't about doing more, faster, or better, but about finding the deepest, most meaningful way to engage with the work itself? And sometimes the greatest efficiency lies not in transcending our limitations, but in embracing them, in the beautiful, messy, and deeply human act of simply being.